Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy. I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yeah, and we're excited. We've got something a little bit different tonight. We're talking to somebody who makes movies. So we have Ryder Seeler here with us. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for
Hello.
having me.
Yeah, we're excited. I know we particularly want to talk about a documentary that we're all kind of excited about because it's music related and we've talked to the musician. It's Hang Up Your Phone. But before we even jump into that, can we just ask you to talk a little bit about yourself? I know you're the owner at New Media Works and you're
nice media work.
nice. I can't read my own handwriting. Thank you.
Yeah.
But just tell us, let us know about you.
Yeah, I'm a local filmmaker. I do video production for a living. And this is kind of a passion project. It's not something I'm gonna make any money on or anything like that, but it's really just something that I did for fun.
All right, well then let's talk about it. Tell us about just tell us about Hang Up Your Phone.
Well, Hang Up Your Phone is a documentary that covers the creation or making of a bluegrass album by Chris Castino, who's part of the Big Woo, which is a local jam band group that's been around for a long time.
Forever, yeah.
And it really just kind of tries to what I tried to do with it is just to really create the experience that I had of being there during the recording. We didn't have much of a plan. Chris and I are friends. Our kids play baseball together, and we actually were friends for a really long time, and we didn't even know what one another did. I think our sons were in kindergarten together, and we were at a school function, and he and I just got to talking and kind of became friends. And then our wives ended up mentioning that what we both did. And probably a year and a half after we met, and so we finally started to talk about, oh, hey, you're a musician, you're a filmmaker, we should do something together sometime. That goes right into this film, which was kind of precipitated by the fact that Chris couldn't perform during COVID because of the live shows being canceled and stuff. He decided that he wanted to make a bluegrass album, which he'd always wanted to make. And he connected with these guys from Milwaukee called Chicken Wire Empire. And I had never heard of them before. But turns out they're really, really amazing musicians. And the plan was for the record, which is called Fresh Pickles. And if anybody's listening out there in Radio Land, I would highly recommend checking out the album because that's really the core of this project. It's quite amazing. And so what I did is I didn't have much of a plan. I just kind of showed up at the recording, which happened out in Crystal at Ryan Young's studio called Neon Brown, I think it's called. And Ryan is part of Trampled by Turtles. So I showed up. I'm not even sure everybody knew I was going to be there. And I really honestly didn't have much of a plan other than I just wanted to capture what they were doing, to try to put together some kind of a documentary, possibly short form. We really didn't know, maybe cut a music video out of it or something like that. So there wasn't a lot of pressure, which was nice. But what ended up happening was that I just kind of hung around the whole weekend, and it was, really, if you don't mind me going on a little bit about it, it really was pretty special for me because I grew up listening to bluegrass music. My grandfather played bluegrass music, and at our family reunions, my grandpa and his brothers and family members would play bluegrass. So I grew up listening to bluegrass music, and it just so happens that the space that we were in was kind of a wainscoting wainscoting paneling, kind of fireplace in the basement with a bar and that kind of thing. So it was like a real cozy kind of I don't know what that is, 1950s kind of style.
1950s, I think. I grew up in a
Yeah.
house like, yeah.
It's exactly where I used to have my family reunions. So the bluegrass music and the camaraderie and the fun that we were having in that environment, it just took me right back to that, and it was pretty special. I think even a person that hadn't had that memory would still think it was pretty special, because it just went so well. But to see the recording process too, as a person who loves music, but just really, I can't call myself a musician. I'm, I can play around on a guitar, but I'm kind of a wannabe musician. So to be able to hang around with musicians of this caliber and to see them, operating and creating these songs, it was just so cool. So that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I wanted to try to, have this film be, is that experience for other people. So moving on from that initial session, I was left with all these moments and songs and things that I had recorded there with them, and things that had occurred between the members and things like that, which I thought were pretty interesting. But it wasn't really a feature film quite yet. It wasn't really a hour-long film. But as time went on, I was trying to pick up little tidbits for the film, and it wound up that one of the members, I won't spoil it, but one of the members decided he essentially decided to leave. At that time, it was not perform with the band live any longer, but it turns out it was more that he was leaving the group. And I don't know if there's an open invitation. It's still kind of a touch and go kind of a situation with those musicians. But for me, it was kind of an important part of the story to get, to show how the process of this whole album wound up, taking place. And so, so that was kind of interesting. And then they ended up playing at a live festival in the last summer, which everyone was like holding their breath for, of course, so to speak, because of COVID. People wanted to go see live music again. So that's kind of the arc of the film, is that they ended up, having this project start because of the COVID. And then, them being able to actually go and perform it was kind of a triumph in itself. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Sorry that
I think it's such Chris's band, The Big Woo, is so well known.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a cult following.
Right.
And we've interviewed Chris, we've interviewed The Big Woo, and we've interviewed Chris about Fresh Pickles. And so
Oh, really? Have you? Okay, cool.
Yep. And I have to say, and I think I said that day, that's when all of my dude friends are like, oh, I totally forget you know them. I'm like, well, I don't know if I know them. Yeah. This is, and what the album is that they are doing bluegrass versions of the old jam songs from the Woo, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But because people have that love and that great affinity for the Big Woo, I think this is an amazing introduction. People can get to know
Yep, you froze.
All right, then I'll just say that the beautiful thing about the documentary is that people can get to know the members of Chicken Wire Empire and their relationship with Chris in a new and different way, but they can still have that intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I was not a big Woo fan, and it wasn't because I was aware of them and I didn't like their music. It was that I just really wasn't exposed to their music growing up. I was just into different things. And so I didn't really discover Big Woo until I really got to know Chris. And so I've told people about what this project is, who are Big Woo fans, and they're very excited about it. In terms, because there's a weird crossover with like jam and bluegrass. There's like a convergence kind of happening in some ways, and they're always going to be their own thing too, but there's like this really nice like melding that's happening across those genres, and it's been happening since the 60s probably, with various groups that kind of went on across that or Sam Bush, he kind of does stuff like that. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it can be amazing for a Big Woo fan. For a person like me who wasn't necessarily familiar with all these songs, it's an amazing album. I really believe it is. And you know, I can't say that the film is amazing, but there are amazing songs in it. And so hopefully people will enjoy watching the cool, you know, one of the cool things that I like about the songs that are played in the film is that they're not necessarily the takes. They're in many instances, in most instances, they are not the takes that they took for the album, and they're very stripped down. And in some places they'll stop and talk, or they'll mess up, or you know, it's very organic. So it's like listening to like a Rolling Stones album or a Led Zeppelin album, and you can still hear the musicians talking to each other, or a plane is in the recording, or you know. I always really loved demo recordings of songs, you know, like an Elvis Costello song that was a demo. I preferred much more than the final really polished version. So I kind of feel like that's one of the really cool things about this film, is that you get this really interesting perspective, and you're able to be there at these moments that you normally would not see, you know? So that was kind of one of the cool things that I liked about the experience.
I was going to say, catching those moments, and even just through watching, you know, COVID from the beginning to when they can play, it kind of pulls you in emotionally, how the music does, and connects us, because we're all feeling it and having all of those emotions too. So I'm so excited to see it. So you could be like, oh yeah, that and that and that, you know what I mean? So it adds that connectivity.
Yeah. And there's sort of a historical, you know, it's kind of like a snapshot of history too, in that way, that, you know, like that was what it was like for us right then. So yeah, there's some interesting sort of things to perceive, you know, when you're watching the film as it goes along. And so yeah, it's been a really special, cool project. I hope people can you know, I don't know what you guys want to talk about next, but I just would say that you know, it's playing at the Trilon as part of the Sound Unseen Film Festival that they have monthly screenings for on May 11th. Those tickets are available. You can buy those on soundunseen.com. We have a Kickstarter if you want to pre-order a DVD. Basically, that it's just paying for DVDs to be made. The Kickstarter is like essentially this like a pre-order system to buy DVDs. We're gonna do like a run of posters too that are available as like a, you know, a level on Kickstarter. So yeah, there's some places that you can check out to see it if you're interested, if anybody wants to see it. But yeah, and I would highly recommend checking out Fresh Pickles. That album is just, I listen to it all the time. It's, you know, and I've been listening to it for like over, you know, well, I've been listening to the songs for over a year or two, and they just are still good. They're still good to listen to. You know?
Do you have a favorite song on the album?
Oh, you know, I have I don't know if I can pick one. I think Shantytown has been my favorite lately. That's the one, and that was one that was kind of a sleeper for me because it wasn't one of my favorite ones initially. Bound for the South Again, really, I've been liking that a lot more, and those are two songs that initially didn't grab me. Yeah, what are some of the other, where is it?
I was going to say, even when you're listening, I wonder if you kind of get pulled back into some of the moments of recording too, or it brings you, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a whole different.
Yeah, you do. You have a different, you know, like there are some, I don't know. I mean, and maybe I'm just crazy in my own world, but there are moments, you know, when in the film, like Irregular Heartbeat, for example, they play Irregular Heartbeat, and just to watch Chris sing that, it's a pretty, like, I mean, it's relative challenging song to sing, you know. Obviously, like Adele could probably just, like, you know, it's not that hard for Adele, but you know, and Chris is a good singer, you know, but he's like there, and it's such a personal song. I don't know the story behind it, but it just seems, you know, seems like such a personal song. It's such a love song, you know, and he's just there by himself with his microphone, and he's belting it out, and there's just like this intimacy that happens in the film that you just don't get in the recording. And then there's like little inflections that they do with his voice or whatever at certain times in the melodies and stuff like that that are different. And you might find that you prefer it in one over the other. I happen to like a few moments like that in the film better than the album. Kind of another kind of maybe kind of a spoiler, but I think we're pretty straightforward about it, is there's a lot of really great special guests on the album. Sam Bush, Jerry Douglas. If you know who these guys are, they're just like gods of bluegrass. They're not in the film, and all those sections for the album were recorded separately, mostly due to COVID, but but partially because of just cost or whatever. I don't know the details of that, but they're not in the film, so it's really, again, very intimate with Chris and Jordan and Ryan and Ernie and John and Ryan Young and Adam Gruel, who's the producer. And so those characters are the ones that are in the film, and they're the ones that, and that's why when I describe the film, it's like they record the backbone, of the film. The backbone of the film album is shown in the film. So there's, I'm sure it would be cool to have Jerry Douglas in the film. I know I'd like to meet him, but or Sam Bush or any of those guys, but Nick Forrester. But yeah, it's just a really, it's a really intimate movie, and I hope I hope people like it.
Yeah, we've just seen the sort of the preview or the promotion, and it's I mean, there's just a kind of a sense of joy throughout it. I mean, the music helps, of course, but it seems like they're having a good time, and makes me wonder, when you're there with them, do you feel like a fly on the wall, or do you feel like you're part of the band?
That's a good question. I tried to be a fly on the wall, but the whole time I just wished so bad I was part of the band. I just wish I could have just be one of them and play an instrument and be cool, but I'm not. I was just the guy with the camera, and I was trying to be like as out of the way as possible. But that's what I do. I'm an observer, and I felt very comfortable, blending in with the wallpaper. But there was never a moment that I didn't wish I was part of the band.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is it even in the part that we've seen? It seems like you've captured those, just those intimate moments, just the look, just just little things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just tried to get them to forget that I was there, is what I was trying to do, and I can be kind of a smart ass and a loudmouth, so I had to really like just remind myself, like, you don't need to say anything right now. It wouldn't serve your role right now. It turned out pretty good that way. I mean, I shot a ton of footage that we didn't use because I was shooting the whole time. I wound up shooting with a C200, which is not a huge camera, but it's a fairly large camera, and then like a DSLR, and then there are parts of the movie that are recorded on my iPhone just because something was happening and I didn't have one of my other cameras. I just had my phone, so I just started to shoot with my phone, and I ended up using footage, so there's a lot of different stuff mixed in, and some stuff that some film stuff. So yeah, it's kind of got that like kind of texture, but I wanted it to have that texture, kind of a home movie texture. Kind of went back to that whole idea of like, my family reunion and stuff, kind of watching my grandpa play with his brothers, and it's like I was back there doing that again, and I probably would have been doing the same thing, as just observing and listening. So it's kind of where it came from for me.
That's great. Well, as Heather said, yeah, we can't wait to see it, because it has just the promotion has that kind of charm where you kind of feel like you're at the table, but you kind of feel like you're a kid at the table watching.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Catching the And sometimes catching the glances that as a kid you wouldn't get. Now you do, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we still always know what those, we're
Yeah,
not
well, at
amongst them,
least
but
with
we
the
see that.
curiosity of a kid,
Yeah.
yeah, the curiosity of a
Mhm.
child, yeah, and so yeah, being adults, you'll get it. But um, yeah, and really the film touches. It doesn't get too serious, but it touches on a couple other really serious issues. I mean, the member of the group that left, um, he was dealing with some mental health not issues, but just he was looking out for himself. He was looking out for himself, and he was feeling like maybe a little bit of pressure or something. I'm just kind of speculating, but a little bit of pressure about the live performing and that kind of thing. And
Okay.
I don't know, I can't speak for him as to why he just made the choices that he did, but I think everybody was really happy that he was taking care of himself. And that was in light to some other musicians, even some in our community, in our bluegrass community, have unfortunately, uh, aren't with us anymore because of various reasons. Again, I can't speak on that, but mental health, are and other things. Substance abuse is obviously something that people have to worry about. I can't say that that's necessarily something that was an issue with this or that, but like people we're delicate, maybe. We're more delicate than we want to admit sometimes, and so we touch on that, and Chris, his partnership with Jeff Austin, who passed away and is no longer with us, and was an amazing bluegrass musician. So that the film kind of touches on that in a real kind of like delicate way. Like, I didn't want to dive into that so much, but it was part of the story. And so it was nice that it kind of showed up a little bit with some, with care. I think Chris really handled the whole thing really well because it was happening in real life. And, you'll see that, you'll see how he deals with it. And I think he did a really great job. He's just a great guy, by the way. I just think Chris
Yes.
he's my friend, but even if he wasn't my friend, he's like what I know of him. He's a really good guy. He's a really good guy, and he's a cool dude. And you were saying like, oh, people might say, hey, oh, you know him?
Yeah.
Like Chris he's such a nice, cool dude
So
that,
nice.
so, yeah,
Like,
it's been really cool.
well, and I think you've already sort of alluded to it. The best way that I learn history is through historical dramas that they really weren't about that time, but I learned so much about the time because of it. And I
Yeah.
think that is how, hopefully in the future, hopefully things will be different in 5, 10, 20, even 30 years. Somebody will look back in that, and I mean, and the telltale masks are
Right.
on for parts of the, and then to get it look, because it is such a unique time that we've been living in, but to be
Yeah.
focusing on the music and see how, when this isn't a movie about COVID, how it
Right.
seeps in anyways. And that with the mental health and the chemical abuse, and I think an acute awareness of taking care of ourselves physically and emotionally and mentally. And I just
Yeah.
think it's going to be such a treat for people to have this for 100 different reasons.
Yeah, I really hope so, because those were all things that came up, and they became like these real life things that were like part of the story, and it's like, it's a documentary, and it's all this stuff is like that happened. These are real people. This is real stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I love documentaries, is because it's not fake, it's
Yeah.
like it's the real thing. And so there's no bullshit about it. It's real, so
Well, there's no pretension of a perception. This is a
yeah.
terrible example, but you remember the MTV, The Real World?
Yeah, right.
And they were filming during 9/11, and somebody who they were filming at the time, it was her birthday. So through the whole show of 9/11, she's like, oh my God, on my birthday, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, bumming
you can
about her
imagine that
birthday,
poor
right.
woman is dying of embarrassment the next day, but
Yeah,
sometimes that immediate feeling, because
right,
we don't have the perspective.
right,
You don't know what's going on. That,
right.
you
Yeah,
just,
yeah. No, I think that's really awesome of you to put it that way. I think that that's a really good way to look at it, you know, because I'm sure it you know, I know exactly what that's like, because you later on you're just like, oh, I didn't
I can't
realize.
believe yeah.
Yeah, totally. I would totally do something like that. But yeah, it's true though, like that. But again, you know, with reality TV, some of those things can be pretty stilted nowadays. And I know the real world, that's kind of OG, and maybe that was a little bit
Yeah.
more of a documentary. But I'm thinking like Real Housewives and stuff, or
Well,
like
yeah,
all
and to
those
call
things
it,
that
I wouldn't call it a documentary, but they did, but it was that, you know, you can't recapture something like, you know, I mean,
yeah,
it's just
right.
those
It's like
moments that
it
are so
happened. Like
real.
that's the real thing that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be, I mean, no one in their right mind would be trying to reenact that like it was the, you know, but
Right. Yeah.
let's hope. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, and having you there to capture those moments, I think will be of such value. The moments of the bluegrass combining with the jam band, you know, a chapter of it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just of these individuals and of the time of our day. I mean, I just think that there's going to be so much. It's
Yeah.
going to be
I like
fun.
that they're calling it woograss.
Yeah.
They titled it woograss. So clever.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, the whole thing is when you I hope when you see the movie, you'll think it's cool too how all this stuff came together.
Just even recording a normal album, I think would be interesting, just to watch all the different personalities and how it gets built in each part of a player. But like we've been saying, this particular time is just intensifies it, and I feel like it will grab people even more.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I can't wait to see what people think about it, because, you know, I mean, I lived with it for a really long time, and not that many people have seen it yet. So, like I said, the project has been great. The project has been amazing for me. The experience, I think everybody's, you know, thought that was really a wonderful experience. The album is really good, and it's better than good. It's amazing.
It's yeah.
Yeah, but the jury's out on the film, so we'll see. You know, I'm looking for some feedback, everybody. So come out and tell me what you think.
Well, exactly. And in that spirit, where can people find you online?
Well, I have a website. It's just my name, ryderseeler.com. And that you can find a few examples. They're relatively old now, but I think there's a documentary film that I made on there, a short documentary film that I made that's very, very different. But also was kind of a personal project. And if you want to, you can see that. It has to do with a film that was made in 1929, and a person that was involved with that. It's called Morris Seeler. So it is and not otherwise. And I'm pretty proud of it, actually. It's nothing ultra cinematic or anything. It's very different. It's more of like an investigative film. And it was a kind of a critique film, because over a long period of time, I was watching this person named Morris Seeler, who was a Jewish man in the 1920s, 30s in Germany. And he wound up being a part of this film called People on Sunday that also was made with other people like Billy Wilder and Robert Siodmak, and Edgar G. Ulmer. And if the other film geeks might know who those guys are, they're like super famous Hollywood filmmakers, all Jewish from Germany, who came over before Hitler released the devastation that he did. But Morris Seeler he didn't come to America, and he kind of started to disappear. And so even the Criterion collection release of People on Sunday miscredited him, and there were other instances where his name was misspelled, and he was like literally disappearing from history. And he had been so I won't give the whole film.
Yeah, no,
Nobody wants to see it, but it's fascinating, and I worked on it for many years, uncovering all the information that I needed to kind of set the record straight. And so, by the way, well, if anybody is interested in watching it, they can go to some other stuff on my website. And yeah, and if anybody wants to email me from there about anything, they certainly can. There's an email thing. Tell me
Great.
I'm great.
Yeah,
Tell
just
me
leave
I'm
it
a
there. Yeah,
wacko.
yeah.
I don't know.
And then we'll say that Hang Up Your Phone will be at the Sound Unseen on May 11th.
Yep.
Any
At the
other details
Trilon.
that people need to know at the Trilon? Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you want to get tickets to that screening, which would be fabulous to have people come and see it that night. It's May 11th, 7 p.m. Trilon Cinema. It's like $12. And yeah, you can just go to soundunseen.com and look under upcoming events.
Nice.
And it's part of their monthly screening series. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
Yep.
How about your Kickstarter too? What's the address for that?
That's a good question. It's some really long URL. Would you guys mind putting it on your? Would you
I
guys
will put it on.
that?
I will put it in the notes. We'll get
Maybe
it.
it'll be like in the description of this.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's for if anybody wants a DVD or a poster, or if they just want to give us money for the film.
Sure.
You know, it's also, so just so everybody knows, it's completely self funded. You know, like Chris put money towards it, and then I put even more money towards it, and then I worked for, you know, free to create it. And so it's, you know, it would just be like recouping a little bit of our costs, but I'll be honest, most of the money, if not all of it, is going to go to the DVDs and the posters, because we want those to be cool. We don't want to just have them be like not cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Your way into the band.
Yeah, maybe I can take music lessons with the rest of the money and
There you go.
learn how to do like a washboard or something simple.
Yeah, we'll get you lessons with Mikkel Beckman. Yeah, there we go. Ryder, thank you so much for joining us and for telling us about the documentary.
So yeah,
we look forward to it.
Thank you for putting up with me. This is the first time that I've actually had to like say all this stuff out loud and like articulate what it is. So
Great.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.